Okay. This What If was sponsored by my dude Black Draco for suggesting it. So, I really didn't like Gundam 00 that much. Sorry, not Gundam 00. Gundam 00 was the second Gundam anime that I ever watched. Because my first was Iron Blood Orphans. That's why I did Vidar. Because Vidar's my nigga. But, this is my custom 00 Quinta Royal Guard from Bill Divers. And it looks pretty solid for my crappy skills. And if you say, oh, you're not have you seen other people? Like, people be doing this just on the daily, just because they feel like it. Compare mine to that. Mine, that. Yeah, there's a difference. Him, better. Me, bad. But, he'll be the Royal Guard Quinta. So, and he suggested, like, for him not to be built. For him not to be born. For him to be built. And so, that's what we gonna do. And thanks for the suggestion, man. Like, if anybody has, like, a suggestion for what if for me to do, dude, just shoot it out, and I'll do it. And yeah, you wanna know something funny? I accidentally erased, like, the part when I took this picture, because there was a waist part that goes in between the gold and the blue and gray, right there. There's a part that goes right there. And it came off when I took this picture. And because I just now had finished it, and it just, it annoyed the crap out of me. But, yeah. And so, Deku's mom, Inko, and Hisashi Midoriya. Well, Hisashi, he makes stuff for the military. So he makes weapons and stuff like that. And he's working on this robot. He basically has, like, the frame down. And so he's working on, like, the armor and stuff like that. And he enlists the help of a woman named Inko Midoriya. Named Inko, whatever her last name is. Because Inko will have a creation quirk in this one. And Hisashi, he actually has a strength enhancement quirk. And a speed quirk. So, like, he can work on things really, really fast. And so, without her help, he wouldn't have figured out something. That you can make a machine, if it's lifelike enough, have emotions and a quirk by injecting some of the spinal fluid of the people that you want. And so, he takes some of his spinal fluid and injects it into a small canister. And he takes some of Inko's and puts it in another. And then they ask All Might. Because they say, we're building a weapon for the military because of the war in Iraq right now. And he says, I would be glad to help, but my hero duties prohibit me from going onto the battlefield. And he says, no, we need some of your spinal fluid. And he says, do what now? Like, he's just like, you tripping. Nigga, you want me to do what? And they say, we need some of your spinal fluid. And they say to examine it. And he says, to examine it and, like, give my quirk to other people. And he says, no, we're making this robot. And, like, they're walking and talking while they're doing this. And then, like, they get to the room that the Quinta, as they call it, later will be known as Izuku, is just standing. But, like, you can only see its back. And he's like, this is impressive, Mr. Midoriya. I knew that you were a super genius, but I never would have guessed this. And he says, it would all be impossible without my wife, Inko. And they had gotten married by that point, sorry. And so, he just is like, but how could it perceive a quirk? And, like, he holds up two, like, small vials, and he's like, this has my quirk and her quirk. And, like, he puts the vials back into the cooler thing. And he says, now we need your spinal fluid to complete him. And he says, I would be glad to help. Anything for Japan. And so, he gives him that spinal fluid. So, yes, he will have one for all. And, like, he puts it into the vial. And then, like, the machine, like, picks up all the vials, pours them into one vial, puts it into a cooler that spins around. And then it says, done synthesizing. I mean, tongue. Quirk synthesizer done. And then he picks up the tube and he says, yes, this is what we need to finally end the war. And so he takes the spinal fluid and he puts it into the nano-organic spine. And, like, it latches on to the back. And it gives him all the quirks. And, like, the machine starts twitching and everything. And then he's like, and then, like, he powers on. And he says, huh? And they're all like, it worked. It worked, all right, thank you. And he said, anything for my country. And, like, they're all, like, drinking and stuff like that to, like, celebrate. And then Deku, he says, so, from the research that I've gathered, Japan is in a war, and you have created me. Wouldn't that technically make me your son? And he's speaking in, like, this monotone voice that I usually use. So, would that not make me your son, Mr. Midoriya? And he says, no. How can a machine ever have parents? And, like, he's laughing and everything, and he's like, And then, like, it pops up on one of the screens that they have system logic error. And, like, Deku, he starts, like, fidgeting. And then, like, electricity starts coming off of him. And then, like, he, like, goes down to one knee and, like, he starts panting heavily. And then Black Whip, Float, just all the quirks inside of One for All activate. Oh, wait, yeah. They have the quirk of one more person. This person that could create nanobots at any given time. Like, no matter what, he can create nanobots, whether it to be to repair machinery or fix something or build something. He can just make them. And so he has the ability to do that. And, like, they all activate, and it's just causing chaos. And stuff like that. And, like, Almight's trying to restrain him. And he's like, no, step back. I don't want to hurt you. Oh. And, like, and it was just the nanomechanical's body to the reaction of a quirk. Of, like, all those quirks awakening. And then, like, he finally, like, fritzes out a little. And then, like, he's standing up. And then he just, like, falls down to the ground on his side. And then, like, rolls over onto his back. And they say, it was a failure. How sad. And to think, we can't even remove the spine. Huh. What a failure. And Deku, he just had pulled a forced system reboot, is what he did. They didn't know. And so, they say, All Might, can you take him to the dumpster outside? And he says, yes. And so he picks up Deku, and, like, he's carrying him. He's like, why is this thing so heavy? And for this thing to be so agile, my God, you'd think it did some kind of training. And Deku, he has, like, all martial arts styles programmed into him. And the sword right there, that thing can come into two. Like, can split apart. Basically, he can create weapons. Because, again, Inko had a creation quirk. But, so, when he, like, sets Deku down to, like, the side of the thing, and, like, he starts walking off, he hears, like, whirring, like, system rebooted. And, like, he gets up, and Deku says, system reboot finished. Logistics division finished. Uploads finished. System security maintenance finished. And he's like, so it did work. And he gets, and, like, Deku, he gets up and says, hello, All Might. What did I miss? And where are is Mr. Midoriya and Miss where's Mr. and Mrs. Midoriya? And he says, they're inside. They thought you were a failure, so you have been kicked to the curb. And so he's like, okay. I shall leave now. And he says, wait. In 15 years due time, go to UA High School. It is my alma mater. Hopefully, you will become a hero for good and not a villain. And he says, yes, sir. I will do what you wish. And he says, no, do what you wish for once. We've done a terrible thing throwing you away. I will tell them that you still did not boot up. Have your own conscience. Have your own mind. Have your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own feelings. Be yourself. Don't be some AI-controlled robot. Be a human. And he says, I cannot be a human due to the 3 laws of robotics. 1, do not harm creator. 3, I don't remember all the laws of robotics. I truly don't. It's been a while since I've watched iRobot. Although, watch that movie. That movie is straight fire. Like, it's freaking great. Gemini Man. Has anybody watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lately? Because, like, that show be popping off. Like, legit. But, so Deku, he goes, and he is, like, trying to, like, find out what he should do. And, I realized the mistake that I made with the model kit. I should have made an extra piece that made, like, the arms a little more bulkier, like, where your, bicep would be. That part. So, it's a little bigger. And, the vent piece, yeah, get rid of that. That isn't there. Yeah. Sorry about the design tweaks, but yeah. And so, Deku, he is walking. And they're all like, is that a new hero? And like, who would it be? He bumps into Midnight, Aizawa, and Mike. Because I'm going to say, like, they were heading back to the UA dorms. Because they have dorms as well. The UA dorms. After they went to, like, Applebee's or something. Some white people capital. Don't get offended by that. Don't get offended by that. We all know it's true. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad. Please don't be mad. I didn't do anything wrong necessarily. I just made a witty remark about white people. But still, don't be mad. It's all fun and games here, okay? Sorry. But anyhow, Deku, like, he, like, rounds the corner, and, like, he's 9 foot tall. He ain't gonna get no taller. He's 9 feet tall. She, like, bumps into him. Or, like, they all three bump into him. And he's like, oh, sorry. And they say, are you a hero? And he says, no. My name is 00 Quinta. Or, no. He says, machineware data name, Deku. And he says, destruction and elimination kill bot of the UN. And the UN consists of, like, America, Japan, basically everywhere except for Iraq. Like, Iraq will kill people, like, if they stroll into their hood. Just cause, like, hey, nigga, we don't like you. Get out of here. And they're like, are you made in a factory or something? Or are you just playing some sick prank? And Mike's like, cool costume though, dude. And he says, what is a costume? And I'm being serious. I was made in a lab not that long ago. I started being produced 5 years ago. But I was deemed as a failure by my father and mother. And they say, father and mother? Thought you said you were a robot. I deem them as father and mother. Hasashi and Inko Midoriya. And they say, wait, Inko Midoriya is in the hero with the creation quirk? And he says, scouring data. And, like, he pulls up this, like, green, like, air tablet type thing. Sort of like how Soundwave does. And he sees, like, her, like, being a hero and, like, doing hero work, and he says, I guess so. And they're like, he really isn't kidding. He was made in a factory. Or he was made by the military to kill people. And he says, is there any way I can repay you all for bumping into you so rude? Because they programmed manners, like a lot of manners, into this man. Like, he ain't no simp, but he got manners. Like, try to mistake this man for a simp, you gonna get clapped. Hands only, nigga. But, meanwhile, while that's happening, this is basically what the frame for him looked like. So, it's basically, like, a more, like, feminine version. It's, like, it's skinnier, a little bit sleeker. The top part is, like, rounder. But yeah, it's just overall sleeker for this one, cause... No. This one is somebody's picture that I found online. I don't know who this guy is. But yeah, this is his picture from online, and this one's mine. So basically, yeah, it's from normal mode. Or, like, he can basically change between this one and this one. What the... Okay, wow, what the heck? So Deku, he basically apologizes, and they're all like, hey, why don't we take him to 1A? Maybe he can, like, be of use. And, like, I was like, no, leave him alone. He can fend for himself. And he says, thank you for defending me, Shota Aizawa. And he says, wait a minute, how do you know my name? And he says, you're on the internet as an upcoming hero, and you're in the top 5 ranked among UA. And he says, damn, that good. Man, I feel like I should be feeling myself. But, Deku, he says, anyhow, bye and good night. And he bows, and he just starts walking away. And then he sees, like, this burning building. And so he's, like, running over, because it's another one of his protocols. Protect humans, I think. Or, yeah, protect all organic matter, no matter the cost, is the second law, I think. And so he, like, rushes in, and they say, for such a big thing, he is fast. Because, again, speed quirk, but he ain't even using it. He ain't even using his thrusters. But yeah, and so he runs, and, like, he does a barrel roll to save, like, the family that was there, and they're like, are you a hero? And he says, no, I am a robot. I was created in a factory, otherwise known as Deku. And they say, Deku, destroy, or destruction, elimination, Hillbot, for the United Nations. And they say, okay. And so he basically, like, grabs the entire family and, like, runs out, and, like, the little girl almost drops her, like, doll, and then and she almost starts to cry. And so Deku, like, when he puts her on the ground, he, like, jumps back in there, grabs the doll, and hands it to her, and he says, don't want this to get all burnt up, now do we? And they say, are you a hero? And he says, no. I was created by the military and a man named Masashi Midoriya and Inko Midoriya. And they say, like, the hero? The chick with the creation quirk? And he says, yes, her. And so, and, like, Aizawa and Mike and them, like, they had all rushed over there to see what was going on, because, like, they saw reporters and, like, the place building, and then, like, they saw this guy with a semi-familiar arm, like, create a fire extinguisher big enough to put it out and just douse the entire place. And he says, there you go. And then, like, he recreates, like, all their furniture, like, he fixes the entire place up in 20 minutes. And then he just says, goodbye, ma'am. And they say, how can we thank you in any way for saving us, our daughter, and helping our house? And he says, I do not need to be thanked, ma'am. I am here to serve. He bows, and he starts walking away. And he says, maybe this is what he meant by having our own personality. Who knows? Maybe we'll run into him again. I need to have toenail surgery. His toe is killing me. Sorry. But, so, he is, like, leaping from building to building to building. And, like, they finally catch up to him, and they're like, how are you so fast for somebody your size? And Hazel just chimes in, like, yeah, nigga, if you gave me a run for my money, dear God. And he's like, oh, sorry, what can I do for you? And they say, good job on helping the family. And he says, it was no issue. It is only the second law of robotics. Protect all organic matter. And they're all like, he really can't do anything for himself. Because he is prohibited by his coding. And so he starts walking. And like, they're in the highest building in Japan. I mean, they're on top of the highest building in Japan. And he just walks backwards and says, anywho, I must leave now. And so, like, he jumps up, backflips off, and, like, he's falling. And they say, hey, he's gonna do a superhero landing. Creates the backpack and just flies away. And they're like, he can fly, too. We'll never catch up to that nigga. Like, Mike's crying. Like, we'll never catch up to him. And so, time skip. Half a year. Inko, she has a child named Izumi. And she's like, it's weird because that machine was the only thing that was like a child to us. And he says, yes, it truly was. It's so sad to be having another child. He was like a baby to me. He was like as if he were my son. And Deku, like, he knocks on the door because, like, he finally found, like, the address and stuff of Inko and all of them. And, like, Inko, like, she's, like, holding the baby, and, like, she says, I'll get it. And, like, she opens the door, and she sees this, but minus the sword. And he says, hello, Miss Midoriya. And they say, Deku? And he says, yes, but now I'm called Zero. And she says, called Zero? By who? And he says, by myself. I had rebooted half an hour later in the alley. I could not find you or anything. I ran into these people. They were quite charming. Ooh. I'm gonna have to check that out. But, so, he is, like, walking and stuff, and he's like, you truly do have a nice home, Mr. and Mrs. Midoriya. And they say, thank you, Deku. I am in Zero. And he says, thank you by calling me the name that I wish to. Even though you do not have to, it shows common courtesy. Thank you. They say, no problem. You were kind of like a son to us, and we were drunk when we had said to throw you out. And he says, no, you did better by throwing me out. I mean, I saved people on my first night of acting like a human, I guess you would say. And they're like, you saved someone? Who? And he says, his family. They were really kind and generous people. I saved them, fixed their entire house, and then left. They wanted to repay me, but I said no. But half a year later now, and here you guys are. And like, he laughs a little. And they're like, it's not your programming to laugh. Did you develop emotions in this half a year? And he says, yes. I developed my own conscious, my own brain, my own human thoughts. And they say, our first creation. It figured out everything that we had wanted it to. We wanted him to have his own conscience. And he says, yeah, it's weird having him in our home and messing with our baby. And he says, I can leave if you would like me to. I just wanted to drop by and say hi. But I was planning on leaving anyway. I have to go and catch a train. They say, oh, we're sorry if we made you feel uncomfortable with our talking. And he says, no, it was fine. I just wanted to see how you guys were doing. I say, well, thank you. And he bows and he says, goodbye. I'm Mr. and Mrs. Midoriya. And he walks out and closes the door. But, meanwhile, when he was in there, he was, like, playing with the baby and stuff like that. Like, she had really liked him. But, so, Deku, he cracks his back, because remember, he does still have the spine. And so he walks to UA, and he's like, I wonder if they went here. And so, like, he opens the gate, walks through, And, like, people are, like, trying to stop him. But, like, he doesn't notice them because UA is so beautiful. It has flowers and everything like that. And, like, he walks in. And, like, he's still noticing everything. And then he walks over to, the front office where Nezu is. And he says, "Do you guys have a Shota Aizawa or a guy that's your name is President Mike?" And then one other person, Midnight. And they say, yes, right this way. And so, like, they lure him into a chamber and, like, they try to gas him, and he says, I am a machine. This stuff wouldn't work. And, one of the quirks in All For One, I'm just gonna say, is regeneration. My nose. And so, Deku, he's walking away and stuff. And he's like, I wonder why they did that. And so, like, he's walking out. And then, like, he bumps into this lady with, like, this golden blonde-ish hair. Or white blonde-ish hair. With curls. And she's like, huh? Who are you? A hero? And he says, no, I am an artificial intelligence. But I do aim to be one. Do you know where Aizawa is? And she says, yeah. Not too far down the hall from here. He was getting a drink with a guy that likes to call himself President Mike. And so he just walks up behind them and says, oh, hello. So you guys do go here. And, like, they just, like, try to attack him, and, like, he catches both of their hands and he says, that's no way to treat an old friend. And they're like, oh, it's you. We didn't notice. Sorry. And he says, no problem. It sharpens your reflexes. And, like, they start jacking around and messing with each other and all this stuff. Anywho. I was about to say sports festival entrance exam. So, Deku, he absolutely aces the written stuff. And so, like, then when Mike is explaining everything, Ida pops up and says, you shouldn't be allowed to wear a suit of armor that helps you in battle. And Deku says, I am literally a robot. If you would please shut up. I was made by Inko and Tasashi Midoriya in a lab on Eastbrook, Maine. And they say, dang, that is where Mr. Hisashi works at, and that is where Inko goes to spend most of her time at. Maybe he's not bluffing. And he says, I'm not bluffing, and they're like, okay, he wasn't bluffing. But, Ida sits back down, and Deku, he is, like, walking towards the front, and he is like, don't you dare go and distract that girl. She doesn't deserve to be distracted. in a time like this. And Deku, he says, I wasn't going to distract her. I was just heading up to the front of the line. I don't want to be last, nigga. And, sorry. And so, he completely just bodies the 0-pointers and everything. Like, automatic body. But, first AUA, he shoots everything, and everything gets infinite. But, I gotta go. Have fun. Do whatever y'all do. Love y'all. Road to 100 subscribers. Let's have fun.